Hello everybody, Disciple here with Overwatch Curios. Mastering a hero in Overwatch is a labor of time invested to reach the full potential of many of the characters in the game. The old adage of practice makes perfect rings true, and the only way to improve with any particular hero is to get in the game and play them over and over and over. However, there are some things that even with tons of playtime you may not exactly realize that a lot of pro players are doing with those same heroes as well. In this series, we'll be bringing you hero-specific tricks that Grandmaster players are abusing in their own games that you can start practicing in your own gameplay to see improvements quick, and who better to start things off with the breakdowns than the DJ himself, Lucio. One of the most important things that Grandmaster players abuse as Lucio is his wall ride, and it's something you might not even realize that you're not doing enough of. First off, his wall ride is an extremely powerful tool for mobility, and it makes him the most mobile hero inside of the game. Every time Lucio chains wall rides without hitting the ground, his movement speed will increase. As moving continues, the wall ride chain continues, and Lucio can travel at insane speeds, and it can allow him to reach points after a respawn in a matter of seconds. Now, there's a ton of tutorials out there for these wall ride chains, also known as rollouts, but the best way to learn them is to enter a custom skirmish and practice your own rollouts on some of your favorite maps until you found interesting means of quickly reaching points that you can start using in your own gameplay. You can sit down and try to mirror what these professional players are doing in their own videos, or you can try and figure out your own rollouts that feel comfortable to you that you can repeat every single time and then practice them. Just remember to keep your head low and out of sight during rollouts, that way you're not giving enemy snipers a line of sight on you as you head towards the objective, because if you die before you reach the point, it's pretty pointless. Now, rollouts aren't the only purpose of Lucio's wall ride, and it's extremely useful inside of combat as well. Inside of 1v1 matches, it gives you a height advantage against the target you're dueling. Because of this, you'll be firing down on them, making it easier to secure headshots, while also making it more difficult for them to land headshots on you. Think of yourself as an eagle swooping in on its prey. You want to take the high ground because you'll have a direct line of sight to their head, while that person below you will have to turn their entire model just to catch you, and if you're able to go back and forth above them, they'll have to move way more while aiming than you will. Even if you're dealing less damage per shot because you're at a distance and you're moving, you'll still have the advantage in your duels because you'll be so much harder to hit. Utilizing wall ride in duels will undoubtedly increase your overall success, and it's one of the primary reasons that Lucio can be a frustrating target to dive as a flanker like Genji or Tracer. His ability to skirmish can be difficult to deal with for the squishy dive characters, especially if you're able to abuse that mobility constantly. Strafing or ADAD spamming is something we've talked about in our tips and tricks videos in the past. Moving back and forth at random intervals mixes up your movement and can throw off the enemy's aim as they attempt to shoot you, and it's an important thing to do so on basically all of the characters all of the time. Lucio can uniquely disrupt the enemy's tracking even more so than with other characters while strafing back and forth. By switching the heal and speed while inside of a 1v1, not only is your direction changing constantly, but the speed at which you're traveling is as well. This makes it hard not only for the enemy to track you, but also more difficult for them to predict where you're moving to and how fast, meaning their flick shots will be less precise as well. However, your aim should be relatively unaffected since you're going to get so used to knowing how fast you'll be moving and where exactly you're headed towards that you should be able to compensate on your own quite easily and even completely subconsciously. Learning how to win duels against enemy heroes is something that will take time to practice. For each enemy hero you face, you may find yourself needing to use different tactics or strategies to win the fight, or may even begin to recognize fights that are flat out unwinnable for you as Lucio, and that's okay, you're a support. However, when it comes to delivering the highest amount of damage in the shortest amount of time, you'll want to practice and master comboing Lucio's abilities together effectively. In an ideal situation, you'll want to begin a duel with your primary fire, followed up with a melee attack after the fourth shot is fired, fire once more with your primary fire, and then follow that up with your alternate fire, Lucio's knockback. By using this chain of attacks in close range, you'll optimize your DPS against enemy targets, and ending your chain of attacks with the boop provides a surge of damage that can finish off low health targets before they can receive healing. Oftentimes in Overwatch, a final burst of damage can be the deciding factor between securing a kill or an enemy healer bringing them back to full health from the brink of death, so practice chaining your attacks together like this. Furthermore, weaving melee attacks in between your primary fire just allows you to increase the overall amount of damage you're able to do between the reloads. Lucio's ultimate is one of the most powerful support ults in the game, and it can be used to initiate fights, to negate enemy ultimates, or even to pull your team from the brink of death and turn a teamfight around in situations where it might have been lost without that overhealing. Since it's such a fantastic ultimate, you're going to want to learn all of the fine mechanics and mind games that Grandmaster players use and abuse in order to improve your own gameplay. Most people know that you can drop the beat on any flat surface, but they don't necessarily understand how important it can be to use inside of a match. Sure, you can style your way onto the point and jump off a roof with the beat drop, waiting to hit the ground stylistically, but using your sound barrier on the edges of raised platforms can allow you to get your ult off in a safer position when you're facing a deathball style team comp that plays tightly and looks for quick picks. Since the effect of your ultimate lasts for a while, it's also important to use it into the enemy team as opposed to using it as a way of retreating. Think of it as a proactive ability for the most part and not a reactive ability, especially if your other friendly support is a Zenyatta. Speed boosting your team into a fight and dropping the beat at the start can give your team a huge advantage at the start and allow them to play much more aggressively than they otherwise would be comfortable doing so. The ability to play like this can pay huge dividends in the outcome of a team fight, but just make sure that your team is on the same page as you are when it comes to making the engagement. One of the most important tricks when it comes to mastering your usage of your ultimate is knowing how to recycle your beats. Since the overheal effect from Sound Barrier is applied directly above your allies' health, armor, and shields, it doesn't actually provide any healing to them. Something you may not notice pro players doing, but something they most definitely are doing, is saving their Amp It Up ability for the tail end of the Sound Barrier. When you use Amp It Up in a healing stance as Sound Barrier fades from your team, you're able to top up your allies and capitalize on your AoE healing potential at a point in time when you likely have most, if not all of your allies within that radius. This boost in healing allows you to quickly charge your next ult and can give upwards of 35% ultimate charge back on the investment of your Sound Barrier. If you've ever watched top level Lucio gameplay and wondered how exactly they always seem to have an ultimate available to use, it's likely that this is a key reason to that and one that you've probably missed yourself. One of the most important things you can do as a Lucio is to focus on recycling your beat like this and getting the most bang for your buck, not only from the ultimate, but as it fades out as well. If you're kind of confused as to what I'm talking about, all we really mean is that as your barrier is fading off of your allies, they're likely going to be close to you and taking some pretty heavy fire from the opponents, so getting as much healing as possible during this one key window where enemies are finally starting to see their window of opportunity to take health off of your allies is going to give you a ton of healing, it's going to save your allies, and it's going to give you your ult back a lot faster. Now, your knockback is a great tool for building space when enemy flankers dive onto you, but it's also quite effective at securing environmental kills as well. It's no surprise to anybody to see a Lucio securing a play of the game on some maps simply by knocking multiple enemies off the map and a certain death with his alternate fire. The mistake that a lot of lower ranked players seem to make, however, is they invest way too much time in trying to knock enemies off the map that they lose sight of their primary function within the match, which is being a support. While securing environmental kills can definitely feel satisfying, keep in mind that your purpose in the game is to be with your allies and to be healing them or giving them speed boosts, and that by supporting your DPS, they should be able to take care of enemies for you without you needing to overextend, looking for opportunities to boot people off the ledge. Keep in mind that it's never worth it to wait or hide for a boop if it's only going to hit one person. Setting up an ambush and waiting for a knockoff is really only worth the time spent waiting if you know you'll get at least 2 people off the map, or if the enemy team is trying to come back to a point that you've already taken in something like control. And touching back briefly to our first topic of wall riding, chaining your rides can allow you to reach key boop spots quickly and stealthily, making sure that you can secure those kills. One of the most well-known of these is probably the bridge on Lijiang Tower's garden map. There's a very direct route you can take, chaining your wall rides off the walls and rocks on the way that can allow you to sneak behind to the enemy side of the bridge and secure those huge boops. Just another testament to the importance of really spending time learning your rollouts and different paths you can take across maps as Lucio that other healers just can't. Now, in general, Lucio is definitely viewed as one of the easier heroes in the game, and that's for a pretty good purpose. You can always be at least somewhat effective if you're just using your AoE heal in the middle of your team and trying your best to fire your opponents. But if you really want to up your game and you really want to climb, you're going to have to be better than just an average Lucio, and hopefully these tricks are going to help you learn how. Well, that's gonna do it for today's episode of some of our hero tricks that Grandmaster players use and abuse on the daily. I'm hoping everybody learned something from this video, as I certainly learned a lot while making it, and I can't wait to teach you guys even more in the next one. Anyway, I'm Disciple, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.